And joining us now here on Locked on Buckeyes as we begin our Buckeye road trip around the NFL, it is Jake Arthur. He is the senior analyst covering the Indianapolis Colts for Horseshoe Huddle. Jake, welcome back, man. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm good. How about you?
Doing very well. I got beautiful weather outside. I'm excited about Ohio State football, but also about
Yeah.
guys that used to play at Ohio State that are going to hopefully do phenomenal things in the National
hmm
Football League in the upcoming season. I say hopefully, Jake, because the first player we're talking about has not played very much football for the Indianapolis Colts, has been placed on the IR for the past 2 seasons. It is Parris Campbell. How would you kind of summarize his previous 3 seasons with the Colts?
Yeah, so far it's just man, it's been what if. There's it's just hard not to describe it as anything else. He's a very talented player. The Colts took him, I think, in the second round. They fell in love with him when they took him. Frank Reich, that was one guy that Frank, stood on the table, pounded the table for. They just really fell in love with him when they saw him working out at the combine on their home stadium turf. So it's been frustrating because 3 seasons, all injury plagued. The most he's played in a season was 7 games, and it's just freak stuff. Because as you know, he wasn't like hurt at Ohio State. He wasn't an injury guy there, but things just keep happening here, and it'd be one thing if it was a pulled hamstring or soft tissue stuff, but it's stuff that requires procedures and surgeries like every time. It's freak stuff. So it's been disappointing because when he does get on the field, he's a playmaker. You can see it. He still has that speed. He can make guys miss. Last year, they started to get him into more of a role where he could stretch the field, which everyone knows he can do. He's one of the fastest guys on the field at all times. Um, but man, if we could just see him for a full slate of games, it's just what if.
I mean, yeah, that what if word is a great way to describe the things that I know Colts fans would love to say or how they may describe him. Because I know numerous people would just say it's a what if game. What
Mhm.
if he was healthy? What if he didn't have these knee injuries? I remember one year in 2020, I read that he had a MCL and PCL injury in a knee, and of course that derailed him. He went on the IR, I believe, in September of 2020. So really early in the season,
Yeah, it was the
he's all
second game.
dude. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm like, my goodness, he just can't catch a break. But the
right.
Colts have a new quarterback looking to have more success at that position than they did last year. And I hope that something with Matt Ryan coming in, Matt Ryan can get a belief. And if there's the hope and if there's the capability for Parris Campbell to even just stay on the field at some point this year, I hope Matt Ryan and Parris Campbell can create some connection so we can see a glimpse of what Parris Campbell can do in the National Football League.
Yeah, for sure. If Paris can stay on the field, I think he would mesh well with Matt Ryan. It's been discussed a couple times, whether it's from Frank Reich or Chris Ballard, that having someone like Matt Ryan at quarterback will help young receivers develop his accuracy and timing and things like that. It puts guys in the right position. As long as they're doing what they're supposed to do, the ball should be where they can get it advantageously. And for a guy like Paris, who yards after the catch and stretching the field, those are like his two biggest things. They've compared having Matt Ryan now to Philip Rivers, the timing, the accuracy, things like that. And honestly, when Paris has looked best was with his one game with Philip Rivers. He was the best receiver on the field for the Colts. I want to say 6 catches for 71 yards or something like that against the Jaguars week 1 a couple years ago. He was the leading receiver, and then just the very next game, Harrison Smith comes down and pops him in the knee just in the wrong spot, and puts him on the shelf for the year. So the talent's there. Old veteran quarterbacks who know what they're doing seem to like him. I'm sure Andrew Luck and him would have done well.
Right.
I do have high hopes for Matt Ryan and Paris Campbell. It's just literally about, can you see him for one game, 5, 11? No one knows.
What kind of player do you think he'll be if he could play 10, 11, 12 games this year?
Um, yeah, I just think so. I would imagine his primary, it's tough to say because they've tinkered with him in different roles
Hmm.
throughout his time. Just it's hard to peg him where he's going to be because of the
Hmm.
injuries. So initially he was the slot receiver, which of course would lead to a lot of underneath stuff, producing yak, things like that. But the last, you kind of have to throw away 2020 because it was 5 quarters of football. Um, so we'll go with last year. He became more of a vertical threat, which Matt Ryan, he's an older guy, but he does still have enough arm to get the ball downfield. So I think primarily we might see him as a deep threat. That's what the Colts mostly need. Michael Pittman has things locked down as the X, the guy who's going to get a bunch of targets and kind of eat up the shorter and intermediate stuff. Michael Pittman can be that. But if they can get that field stretcher on the other side, and I think they want that to be Parris Campbell, he just has to be available. So I could see him being the big play guy initially. Um, if he stays healthy, I think he could fend Alec Pierce off their first pick. Um, I don't think they're in any big rush to get Alex Pierce some significant role. If he needs to develop a little bit, that's fine. And I think they would very much welcome Parris Campbell being another guy they can rely on. But with that said, I do still see some underneath stuff because they know yards after catch, just getting the ball in his hands is the way to go with that kind of guy. So I would still expect to see some of that, mix in some runs here or there. Uh, Basically, think of the discount version of what the 49ers did with Debo Samuel. That's kind of what a lot of people like to equate it to. It's not going to be a Debo Samuel role. Don't, no one listening should take that expectation at all. It's just some form of it because they have similar skill sets.
Right, right. I think everybody understands there's a difference between
Yeah.
Debo Samuel. Well, I hope they do between Debo Samuel
Hmm.
and Parris Campbell. Last but not least, contract situation. I don't know where he currently stands. Oh, this is year 4 for him, going
Hmm.
into year number 4. Where does his contract currently stand with the Colts? If this if this is a contract year, do you see him signing a 1-year deal with the Colts to keep him there for at least one more year?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because with a guy like that who's not seen the field much, you don't talk about contracts very much. But
Right, right.
I've had this talk with a couple other people in the media room there. What does it look like if he comes out and has a big contract year this year? What do you do about that? I think in that instance, you probably do give him a 1-year deal,
Okay.
kind of a prove it deal, just to make sure that 2022 isn't a fluke if he's healthy and plays well. I don't think he'll command a ton of money just because no one will want to put that much money into someone who will have only had one healthy season. Um, I would definitely think the Colts would be interested, though. I would think they'd be the front runners for his services if he proves to be healthy and still be a playmaker.
I sure hope so. As a
Hmm.
Colts fan, as a Buckeye fan, I would love to keep him in Indianapolis. Excuse me, yes, in Indianapolis
Hmm.
for a very long time. But I do understand the injury situation that will really dictate how the contract situation, extension, any new deal may come because you have to stay healthy. And if you're not healthy, you may go to a different team. We just saw Marlon Mack no longer with the Colts. And he had a phenomenal start to his career, just an injury, and then Jonathan
Hmm.
Taylor coming in really changed things for him. I'll get off the other players. Parris Campbell, I love talking about him. I hope he stays healthy. And Jake, I'm glad you can come back on the podcast this year to kind of help us learn more about Parris Campbell, what we can expect from him this year with the Indianapolis Colts. Jake, where can people follow you on Twitter, and where can they read some of your work as well?
Yeah, and thanks again for having me. You can find me at Jake Arthur NFL, both on Twitter and Facebook. I'm always posting my work there. And then you can go to horseshoehuddle.com. I think we put out a lot of really good work among all the Colts sites out there, kind of the total package. We've got really nice film guys. We just try to be your one-stop shop. Everything Colts related, we're reporting on it.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Jake, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yep, thanks again.